Welcome to this course on how to apply for an Employment Authorization Document, or EAD, with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Obtaining work authorization in the United States is a significant milestone for any immigrant. Only certain categories of applicants are eligible to apply for an employment authorization. For example, individuals with a pending green card application, a pending asylum application, or other qualifying immigration status can apply for an employment authorization. In this course, you will learn step-by-step how to apply. I will cover who qualifies, the steps to complete Form I-765 correctly and avoid common mistakes. I will go over the documents you need to submit with the application, what to expect after filing, and how the Employment Authorization Document provides not only legal work authorization but also access to a Social Security number and a sense of stability. By the end of this course, you will not only understand the form itself, but also the critical importance of choosing the right eligibility category, because this specific part makes the difference between approval and denial. Let's get started. The U.S. immigration system only allows foreign nationals to apply for an employment authorization document under specific circumstances. The request must be linked to an underlying immigration process such as a pending green card application, temporary protected status, DACA, U visa, asylum case, refugee status, or another qualifying category. In many cases, approval of the employment authorization document also comes with a Social Security number, making it easier for applicants to integrate into the U.S. workforce, open bank accounts, and establish financial stability. The categories eligible for employment are listed on the USCIS Employment Authorization webpage. Pause this course and take a moment to review all the categories. Reviewing the categories will provide you with a broad understanding of the various options available to foreign nationals for obtaining work authorization in the United States. The immigration process typically takes months or even years to complete. To alleviate the burden of waiting, the government provides temporary work authorization to help applicants support themselves during the waiting period. The employment card bridges the gap between arriving in the United States and achieving permanent legal status. Let's see together who qualifies for an employment authorization document. When figuring out who qualifies, the key question to ask is, what immigration process or status allows someone to work in the U.S.? The answer has to match one of the categories you reviewed earlier. Some of the main categories include adjustment of status applicants. For example, Maria married a U.S. citizen and filed her green card application using Form I-485. While her case is pending, she applies for EAD under Category C9 to get her work permit. Other cases that qualify are pending asylum. If you have a pending asylum case, you must wait 150 days from the date your application is received before filing for EAD. For instance, Jose applied for asylum after arriving in the U.S. 6 months later, he applies for EAD under C8 so he can work legally while waiting for a decision. Other ones are refugees. They automatically qualify for an EAD after being admitted to the United States. For example, Lena entered the U.S. as a refugee from a conflict zone and applied for her EAD under A5 shortly after arrival. Another case is withholding of removal. This category is for individuals granted withholding of removal by an immigration judge. For example, Ahmed was ordered removed but later received withholding of removal protection. He applies for his EAD under A10 so he can work legally in the U.S. Last example is international students. They may qualify for work authorization through programs like optional practical training or curricular practical training. For example, Sophia, an F1 student, finishes her university program and applies for OPT. She can apply for EAD under Category C3 to receive her work permit. It's very important to enter the appropriate code on the form. Using the wrong one can cause delays, trigger requests for evidence, or even result in denial. Accuracy here is critical. Now let's go over the steps to obtain the employment authorization document. The very first step is to figure out the correct eligibility category. This is the foundation of your application because USCIS only grants work authorization to foreign nationals who qualify under specific categories. You need to select the one that applies to your situation. Why does this matter? On Form 1765, Part 2, Question 27, you'll be asked to enter the eligibility category code. This is often the most confusing part because not everyone is eligible for a work permit. We'll see how the code works in a minute. Eligibility depends entirely on your immigration status. and the specific category you fall under. The step 2 is to read the form instructions carefully. Always make sure to answer every question accurately. If a question does not apply to you, simply write NA. Avoid errors to prevent delays or requests for additional evidence. The third step is to sign and date the form. Always use black ink when signing and dating your application. The fourth step is to pay the correct fee. Some categories are exempt from filing fees, so check the fees chart carefully. You can use the USCIS fee calculator online to make sure you pay the right amount. An error in the filing fee will delay the application process. Finally, the last step is to make copies. Before sending your application, keep a copy of the form and the supporting evidence. If you're mailing your form, use a service with tracking to ensure it arrives safely. Now, you may be asking which method is better to choose to file the form. The preferred method is to file online through the USCIS website. Opening an online account is highly recommended so you can track your application and get updates directly. It is cheaper, faster, and efficient to file online. Paper filing by mail is still an option, but make sure you follow the form's instructions to avoid mistakes and delays. All right, now we're going to talk about Employment Authorization Document codes, or EAD codes, and how they work. Government agencies may want to verify eligibility to work. Also, employers need to verify your eligibility to work. They will look for the EAD code listed on the card. For example, if ICE agents audit your employer, you would show the EAD card to prove that you are authorized to work. The EAD card has a category code printed right on the front of the card. Basically, it tells them under what category the person is authorized to work in the U.S. For example, let's say the EAD shows the code A3. That code refers to EAD refugee status. So when an agency sees A3, they know that the person has work authorization because they are a refugee. The EAD code definition chart provides the details about which categories or classes of admission are available. And if you want even more details, see 8 CFR section 274A.12 and the COA table provided with this course and in the free online resources. Let's see a practical example. Imagine Maria has an ad with the code C9. By looking it up, we see that C9 refers to someone who has a pending adjustment of status application. That means green card application. The agency would know that Maria is allowed to work while her green card application is being processed. So by understanding the EAD codes, agencies can quickly verify if someone is authorized to work and under what conditions. Before filing Form I-765, it's important to know which documents you need to include with your application. Typically, you will need your USCIS receipt notice for the pending application, such as Form I-485 or an Asylum I-589 receipt. You'll also need a copy of your passport biographic page, your visa page if you have one, and your I-94 arrival or departure record if available. In addition, include a birth certificate with a certified English translation if it's not in English, and a marriage certificate if it applies to your situation. You will also need 2 passport-style photos. If the case is a defensive asylum application, check the instructions for additional evidence requirements. It's always a good idea to check the latest USCIS instructions for your specific category before submitting your application. This will ensure that you submit all required items at once. Once you've filed Form I-765, it's important to know what happens next and what documents you can expect to receive. First, you'll receive a notice from USCIS, which confirms that your application has been filed. If you filed online, the notice can be downloaded from the USCIS site. If you filed on paper, the notice will come in the mail 2 to 3 weeks later. Next, you may receive a biometric appointment notice with the date, time, and location for your fingerprints for the background check. This step is crucial and cannot be missed as it includes a detailed review of your criminal history. After that, you'll receive a notice. This could be an approval, a denial, or a request for evidence or RFE if something is missing. If you get an RFE, don't panic. Read it carefully and respond with all required evidence and include a statement if necessary. If your application is approved, USCIS will mail your EAD card and the Social Security Administration will send your Social Security card separately. Let's go over some general rules. Ads have a validity period that varies depending on the category. For example, an adjustment of status EADs may be valid for 2 years and can be renewed. Certain categories, like deferred action, TPS, or DACA, will have a validity period that aligns with the underlying program's approval period. Withholding of removal beneficiaries receive EADs valid for 1 year, which can be renewed indefinitely every year. USCIS may also issue automatic extensions in certain categories if renewal is filed on time. Check the USCIS Automatic Employment Authorization Document Extension webpage to learn more about this great benefit. Additionally, review the current policy on the duration of the EAD for each category, as USCIS may modify the policy and adjust the EAD duration period. Now let's go over the automatic extension for asylum. If you filed Form I-765, you may be eligible for an automatic extension of up to 540 days while your application is pending. Now let's go over the conditions you need to meet in order to qualify. First, your Form I-797C, which is the Notice of Action or Receipt Notice, must have a received date that comes before the expiration date printed on your current EAD card. Second, as long as your renewal was pending on or after May 4th, 2022, you automatically qualify for the 540-day EAD extension. Third, your renewal application must fall under a category that is eligible for an automatic extension. And finally, the category listed on your current EAD must match the eligibility category or class requested shown on your Form I-797C. And just to note, there are some exceptions depending on the category. If you meet all of these conditions, your work authorization is automatically extended for up to 540 days from the expiration date that's printed on your current card. Now, these norms may change. The best practice is to read the USCIS policy that pertains to your category at the time of filing. This will provide you with accuracy on the duration of the employment authorization. If you want to calculate what your EAD expiration, it is best to use the Automatic Extension Eligibility Calculator on the USCIS website. Let's see how the automatic extension works. When you apply for your very first employment authorization document, it only becomes valid once USCIS approves your application and actually issues the card. Now, the automatic extension is a little different. Here's how it works. If you already have an EAD and you file a renewal and obtain a receipt prior to the expiration date on the card, using Form I-765 and pay the filing fee, your current EAD is automatically extended. This extension starts from the expiration date that's printed on your card, not from the day you submit your new application. For example, if your card expires on June 1st and you file for a renewal before that date, the automatic extension begins on June 2nd. Even though you do not have a new physical EAD card, the expired card and your filing receipt notice are proof of your authorization to work. When you file online, you'll get a receipt right away in your USCIS account. On the other hand, if you file by mail, the receipt notice can take around 2 to 3 weeks. It's important to know that not every category qualifies for automatic extension. For instance, people with a U visa do not receive an automatic extension. Some of the most common categories that do qualify include applicants for adjustment of status, TPS, asylum applicants, and DACA recipients. So to sum up, the automatic extension is a protection that allows many people to keep working legally while their renewal is being processed, but it doesn't apply to everyone. Always double-check whether your specific category is eligible before relying on it. Let's talk about the benefits of having an employment authorization document. First and foremost, it allows you to work legally in the United States. Beyond that, it serves as a valid form of government-issued identification. In addition, the Social Security Administration will issue a Social Security card with a number, which is the usual way to obtain one. Finally, having an EAD can provide greater stability for families while they wait for their long-term immigration cases to be resolved. Applying for an employment authorization document is a key step for many immigrants who need stability and the ability to work while their immigration cases are completed. The process itself is not complicated, but success depends on one critical factor: choosing the correct eligibility category. With the right documents, careful attention to detail, and timely responses to USCIS, you can secure a work permit that not only provides legal work authorization, but also opens the door to a Social Security number and greater financial stability. That wraps up this first lesson on the Employment Authorization Document course. You may proceed with the next video lesson. Thanks for watching.